My next guest on the program is part of our Flip the Script series. Please welcome Caitlin Kowalski. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what are you doing these days?
Right now, I am a level 10 studio company member with Louisville Ballet. So we're slowly working our way back into regular rehearsal. So that's our focus for right now.
And what does level 10 mean?
So the studio company is split into 4 levels, 7 through 10. So basically 10 is just the last level that you go through in the studio company.
And how many years have you been with Louisville Ballet?
This is my 4th year with Louisville
4 years.
Ballet. Yeah.
Well, and for our, I'm kind of jumping around here and I apologize. For our dance students who might be watching this, how would you say your experience as a professional dancer differs from your experience as a student of dance?
I would say that, I mean, of course, there's so much more pressure when you're with a company than when you're with like your dance school. The atmosphere is a little bit different because you go from maybe being at the top of your school to like, the bottom of very, very bottom of the company. So you have these dancers who have been dancing with the company for 20 something years and they have all this experience and knowledge that they're trying to pass on to you. And you just really have to just soak it all in and accept the fact that you're like back at the bottom and just be open to that learning process. It's a very unique experience.
I think going to college is a little bit like that as well for those of us
Yeah.
in performing arts. We're top dog in high school. We've worked our way up the ranks, and not unlike becoming a freshman in high school, you forget what it is to start all over again.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Well, when you were in our area as a student, who did you study with?
Allegra Dance Theater under Carol Zagar, and then I had Dale Brannon and Kathy Sawyer and Robert McFarland and Teresa Bautista, all those familiar names.
Great. And how do you think that prepared you for what you're doing now? What do you look back on now and go, oh, now I get it?
I would say from a very young age, they instill that professional quality in not even just performing, but class and how you carry yourself, even in rehearsals when you're just off to the side. Excuse me. And you're not even necessarily participating at that moment, but just that professional quality that they expect you to have at all times. And I would say that that's something that I didn't really understand from a young age. But now that I have gotten to that more like professional level, it definitely makes sense. And I'm glad that that is something that I had experience with when I was younger, because now it's easier for me to just carry that along into all my work.
Becomes habit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it becomes a habit.
And one of the things I always talk about with the performing arts is, there are students that we have that go on into the profession like you have, but we're also teaching life skills. And I think that's an important life skill, whatever you go into.
Yeah. Just to build on that, I know even in my outside jobs, not even just in the studio, it's been really great for me to kind of have that backbone of professionalism, time management, discipline. This is all stuff that dance has taught me, but I've been able to apply it to the rest of my life, and it's been so helpful.
And well, speaking of applying things, I know one of the things that you and I talked about just really briefly before the interview through our emails is that going back to work right now with the ballet is very different than it was this time last year.
Yes.
What does ballet look like under the restrictions and guidelines that we have?
That is a very good question. I know it's so hard to imagine us taking ballet and putting it into this like COVID bubble that we all have to go along with. But basically we don't touch at all. We all have squares for class that we stay in that are socially distanced. So we have taped squares on the floor. We wear our masks always, change our masks when they get wet because they're less effective when they're wet than when they're dry.
That's something I never even thought of.
Yeah. When you're getting sweaty for a whole hour and a half, you definitely have to change that mask out and get a fresh one. We give the studio time to air out in between classes and rehearsals. So we'll typically do an hour and a half block, and then the studio will air out from anywhere to 30 minutes to an hour, and then we come back so that the air can circulate a little bit, and we're not just sitting in the same stale COVID air the entire day. Yeah, so those are the main things I would say. We have a check-in when we first get to the studio to make sure that we are abiding by all of the regulations in our outside life to keep everyone safe inside the studio. Temperatures taken, all the pretty typical things I would say, just kind of have to morph them a bit to make them ballet appropriate.
Well, the one thing that I think is in your favor in this field is the amount of discipline you already have to have as a ballet dancer.
Yes.
I can remember back in college, our ballet dance instructor sending a girl home because she hadn't tied the ribbons on her toe shoes correctly.
Oh, goodness.
So, I mean, there's that kind of, there is no gray area. This is how it's done.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And we kind of have to be that way right now with these.
Yes.
There is gray area, but when it comes to people's safety, we have to really toe the line.
For sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the things you just mentioned, you said that there's no touching. How do you handle lifts and things like that?
For the time being, we actually, unfortunately, have not been doing that. Some choreography that we might have done in the past or worked on in the past that did have those aspects, we've had to just work around that and change choreography if we need to, or just say, well, maybe we'll save this for when times are hopefully better. So yeah, for right now, that just hasn't been part of our day-to-day choreography or anything like that.
Do you have a lot of what I think the term is a lot of rep pieces that you do year after year? Like
no.
Nutcracker. Nutcracker for us is a rep piece.
Yes.
Or Cinderella for Allegro, which is coming up later in November. Does Louisville Ballet have some rep pieces that they've had to rethink, re-choreograph?
Mm-hmm. We do, yes. Our lecture demonstration shows, which are what we take to local elementary schools, that's actually going to be recorded instead because we're not able to go to schools. Mm-hmm. And so we have had to rethink that a little bit just to manage when we would normally be talking to the kids in the audience, how are we going to talk to the camera? Yeah. We do have some props for that show that are handed from character to character, which we can no longer do. So we've had to rethink that. That's really the only returning rep besides like Nutcracker, of course, that we have had to really think through. I'd say typically rep does come back, but it's not every year. It's like every few years.
Like on a cycle.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Well, I just mentioned Cinderella. What was your experience with Cinderella when you were a student down here?
My experience. So my first Cinderella was 2008, and I was a bumblebee in one 5-minute scene at the very, very beginning of the ballet. And then my last Cinderella was 2016, and I was Cinderella.
Oh my God.
Yes. So I grew up with Cinderella, just working my way up year by year until I finally got to the top. So Cinderella really taught me how to take choreography from the previous year and build on it the next year. And I got to do that year after year after year. So just another aspect of discipline, I would say, just being able to take that choreography and build on it year after year. And of course, there's always the professionalism that I talked on earlier. Just being able to get into the theater and know exactly what to do and how to behave and how to act and be a role model for the younger girls who are a bumblebee, just like I was when I first started. Yeah, Cinderella was definitely a very big learning experience for me.
I mentioned earlier, not all of our students go on to be a professional performer.
Yeah.
Some of them going to other fields. And, that's a big decision. What was the turning point for you to go, all right, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah. I was actually kind of on the fence about it for a while. When I was younger, I guess I didn't even realize that you could be a ballerina professionally. So I had my mind set on other things, and then I kind of started to realize that that was a possibility. But when I attended Governor's School for the Arts in 2016, they kind of made me realize, like, oh my gosh, that's actually possible. Like, people actually do that for real. Mm-hmm. So I would say that was the turning point for me, realizing that I actually could do it and make a life out of it.
And that's Governor's School for the Arts is just an incredible program.
Yes.
And they've had a really tough year right now, and I look forward to them bouncing back as well. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about the fact that you are a professional dancer and you are earning a wage doing this, but like many professionals in the performing arts, we all at some point in time in our life have had to have side gigs.
Yes.
And you were at Target, yes?
Yes, I work at Target.
You talk about time management. How do you balance it? Are you full-time with the ballet, full-time at Target?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it can get pretty insane, pretty tiring. That's where, like you said, the time management definitely comes into play. I have to make sure all my things for the day are laid out and ready. Whatever meals that I'm going to have are either something that's quick and easy that I can make between dance and work, or even after work sometimes, or a meal prep. So I'll have meals, for a few days in advance.
It's not wake up in the morning and figure out what I'm going to wear. That's all done before you lay your head down the night before.
Maybe not that, but but yeah, I do try and have my day pretty well planned out so that I don't run into any bumps the next day. Yeah.
How often do you get down here to see anything that Allegro is doing now?
Not as often as I would like, but I do try to come down. Yeah. At this time in my life, I'm pretty busy. Yeah, but I do still have a couple sisters. Well, one sister now at Allegro. So I try and get down and see them sometimes.
What's it like to watch Cinderella from the audience?
Oh, it's such a weird experience. I think the first time I saw it from the audience, it was definitely emotional, because that's something that like you grow up with, and then all of a sudden you just don't have it anymore. So it was definitely an emotional experience. There were times where I was like, oh, so that's what that looks like. Yeah, because when you're on stage, it's just a completely different point of view, of course, than when you're sitting in the audience. So there were some sections where I was like, I've never realized that that's what that looked like. Yeah, emotional for sure.
Have you gotten to watch, you have two sisters?
Yes, two sisters in ballet. Mm-hmm.
And have either of them played Cinderella yet?
Yes, one of my sisters, Maggie, who was actually a PAC Kids Spotlight a couple years ago, she was Cinderella her senior year. So
what was that like to watch your sister wearing your costume, dancing your role?
it was like when she steals my clothes out of my closet. No, I'm just kidding. It was odd. It was like me on stage, but it wasn't me. It was my sister. I don't know. It was kind of like watching myself, but different. It's kind of hard to even explain. I was proud, of course, because we grew up dancing together, and then to get to see her do that her senior year of high school was just so exciting. So, yeah.
And for her as well, having known that she's growing into the role that her sister had played, I'm sure she had a lot of those same mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I'm sure she did. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we talk about in the performing arts, particularly with dance, is our time on the stage, particularly in ballet. Our time on the stage as a ballet dancer is wonderful, but it's not unlike a candle. It burns very brightly, and then it burns out, because it is a profession that is very hard on the body.
Yeah.
And that you grow out of. What's the next phase for you of your performing life?
That is a very good question. That's actually something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because we were away from the studio so long because of COVID-19. I've been thinking about going back to school. I kind of would like to be a zookeeper. I think that's something that I would really enjoy and I would actually be very good at. So that's kind of been crossing my mind a little bit lately. Of course, I'll always continue to teach dance, I'm sure. That's something that will never leave me, I don't think. So
I just think it's therapy. It's like going to the gym or doing yoga. When you have to dance, you have to concentrate on that moment and that time, and everything else has to fade away into the side of it. And it's a great release and great therapy.
I agree. And helping kids achieve that too is a very rewarding experience.
Are you teaching with Louisville Ballet as well as taking class?
I do not teach with Louisville Ballet, actually. I teach at another local studio called Joanne Fryer Academy of Dance. So, I do that on Monday and Tuesday nights.
You have 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I know, sometimes I forget to consider Louisville Ballet as a job. It kind of doesn't feel like work. But yes, technically I have 3 jobs.
I used to... I did a lot of touring when I was younger, and when a friend of mine got hired, a young student got hired as going on their first tour, and I told them, I said, you'll be fine, but you got to remember one thing: performing is not your job. Performing is the fringe benefit. Your job is to get along with all of these people 24/7 and be part of a team and collaborate and contribute. That's the job. Yeah,
I would have to agree.
Caitlin, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything you'd like to share with our students or with our audience members here? We're kind of at the same point of Louisville Ballet right now, and we're trying to get on our feet again as well.
Nothing much. I would say just don't get discouraged. Just know that someday we will go back to normal. So just keep on pushing through it for now so that you'll be ready to just dive right back in when we're able to.
I couldn't have said it better. That's great. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me.